Hey everybody, it's David with No Chaser, and for today's topic, I'm going to touch on something that I don't believe I've ever really touched on before. So I'm a little bit excited about it just because of the myriad of topics that I've covered. This is one I haven't before, and this is what's known as the pink cloud. The pink cloud is essentially so it can happen with a couple scenarios. The first one is you go to treatment and you get out of treatment, or you start early recovery. You really get into it, going to meetings and everything like that. It can come from just being clean and dry for a couple of weeks. And what it essentially is this sort of feeling of vibrance and euphoria, and kind of this, as you can imagine, a pink cloud being on cloud nine in a way, where you just feel super jazzed about recovery and super jazzed about life. And so, why is this an issue? I mean, it's just like for once you feel happy and be like, no, I need to tell you why this is bad. I mean, there's nothing wrong about feeling good. I mean, maybe I can explain it better. It's if you feel good about life, that's great. I mean, that's a big part of being in recovery, is to actually enjoy, what you're feeling, to enjoy life in itself. I mean, that's the whole point of getting clean and sober, right? But this is different. This is sort of almost a mild manic state about recovery. I mean, maybe not manic, but in this sense where it's on a hyperdrive in a way. Like, I use kind of that bipolar terminology because you seem to go from the state you were in to this very like jazzed up, super about like I remember some people even saying the phrase that like being addicted to recovery in this weird way, where you're going to a lot of meetings and you're just going through the AA book or literature, or you're going through smart literature, just any recovery literature. You're crushing through books. You're going to meetings. Some people I know go to 3 meetings a day, and you're spouting all the platitudes and terminology, and you completely and utterly adopt it within your life, in this sense that I think some people would say to be wary about, because it's an overextension. It's something that is a little bit too much to be natural. And this comes from, I myself have never actually really felt this feeling, but I've, been through treatments before. I've stayed in touch with people that, have gotten in early recovery, all throughout my life. And I've seen it every once in a while where that word that I use, the unnatural amount of sort of hype within you, of this feeling of, again, just full adoption of this recovery life, almost so much more so that you even ignore other things in your life. And basically the reason why it's seen as an issue is because it's, again, it's sort of, if you're on the spectrum where you should be feeling better, and then you have your ups and downs that early recovery has, and in the last video I just discussed that. But with this, it's almost like, I'm walking on sunshine. Terrible at singing. But you you feel this sort of grandiose sense of recovery as well too, and it's basically, it can be described as like too much too quickly, where just like anything in life, where there's this, kind of like with drugs and alcohol, if there's this huge spike in sort of this euphoric nature of your life, usually your life will regulate that. Or sometimes it doesn't it doesn't mean that you'll go back to this sort of big depression, or you'll go back to this big, just unsatisfied feeling of life. But the with the pink cloud, it will kind of go away. Now I know with some people it lasts like, it can last basically a couple of weeks. It can last a month. Some people I know have said they were on it for a couple of months. But the thing is there's always this following sort of crash, or rather, there becomes this big feeling of complacement, or you've kind of like recovered yourself out, where you had done so much at once that you feel like maybe that you've got this now too. It can trigger that false sense of security, that false sense of sort of confidence. And that's the other word I forgot to mention. that's a big part of it actually, so I should mention it now, is that not only do you have like this all this good feelings that come with recovery, but it builds up this sense of extreme sort of confidence. Because if you're in the pink cloud, it's kind of easy to stay clean and sober because you have just all these good feelings that come with it. You're so attached and so attracted to recovery, and recovery in all its aspects too. Like every single thing is you're totally gung ho for. And again, this sounds weird. It's strange to explain this because all this sounds like a good thing. And just again, I can't stress this enough. If you're feeling good about where your life is at and where your recovery is at, and you're really excited to take on this new life, there's nothing wrong with that. This is again this hyper version of that, where you could almost sense that when you see it in other people. Like I saw it in one person, for example, where they even joked about being addicted to recovery, where they're going to just like meetings, like multiple meetings a day. And here's the other thing. A lot of people go to multiple meetings a day, right? But they feel like they need it. It's still a struggle for them. They need as much, sort of being around people, staying away from isolation, learning about, recovery programs. A lot of it, a majority of it is AA. Learning about all this stuff, getting attuned to it. But the pink cloud is not that. It's sincerely just a sort of, like I said, a mild manic state about recovery, where you get just super immersed into it, and just immersed into it in a way that can seem, how do I put this? I don't want to seem false. I don't want to say false, but it has this sense of not gonna have like longevity to it, because it's just so much all at once. And again, the other big thing about it is that sense of confidence, where when people go through this sort of pink cloud of everything, they go, man, I don't know what all these turkeys over here were complaining about. This recovery stuff's easy. I feel great. I don't feel like I want to drink. I did this treatment program. That's another thing too. People go through inpatient rehab and they come out of it, and when they're on that pink cloud, they can almost have a feeling of like being fixed or cured because of how great they feel about it. And then that will trigger other things, as far as I use the word trigger so much, I'm trying not to, but it can set attitudes with family and loved ones around one, where they go, oh, they do look cured, and it sets this false sense of comfort and security, because it's like, well, this is the way they'll always be, because they went to treatment, they got cured. A lot of people that don't understand addiction or alcoholism see treatment the way you see like other things, maybe like intense physical therapy to get your arm or leg back moving, and then it's fine after that, or the way that you go through any sort of like treatment for an illness that's acute, and then it's over and then you're fine. And so with this pink cloud, it sometimes can reinforce that idea in those around them, because everything looks super great. Not just good, not just great, but super great. And that, what it sets the person up for a lot of times will be a relapse. And all those people that I talked about that I've known in the past that gone through the pink cloud, they either did relapse after that, or they were very close to, once those good feelings sort of subsided and you had to get to the real world, and all of a sudden you're not so jazzed about doing all the things for recovery. Like, you're not so jazzed about calling your sponsor or going to meetings, or just basically taking in all these responsibilities in life, volunteering, all this sort of stuff, which are good things to do. But, God, I have to say this, but, everything sort of in moderation. And that sounds insane to say for, recovery, because this is what's saving people's lives. But this is, a different aspect. This is something that is just, again, too much at once. And it's just this inflated sense of ease too, where again it provides that sort of false, or not, it's not a false confidence, it's a real confidence that you gain, but it's an overconfidence. Or it can lead to complacency. It leads to all these other sort of moods that can be something that sets upon a relapse, because it just sets you up too much. And then the drop that you have from the pink cloud creates this sort of depressed or this sort of empty feeling that can make you go, oh no, this is way harder than I thought, or oh no, something's wrong with me because I lost this, tremendous sort of feeling and vibes that I had, and what do I do now? And so the pink cloud, again, it's one thing that's it's fascinating, and it's difficult to talk about because it sounds like I'm just being a curmudgeon and going against all these nice things that come with recovery, but it's not. I mean, it's something that it may be hard to fully describe or warn about, but when you see it, when you see a person going through it, you can kind of tell. Because the other thing is that they're also in that pink cloud. They're different from how they normally are, like normally are sober and clean. It's just a whole different sort of attitude that is, again, hyper extended and hyper sort of like positive. It's really hard to explain this stuff without sounding like I'm just crapping on someone's parade, but it's really not that. It's something, like I said, you'll see that looks different from a person that's just getting well. It's something totally different, and you see a person kind of going through it. If you're a veteran of this recovery stuff like me, who's tried it over and over again, have found all the different ways to fail at it, or have found ways to succeed at it, you see the kind of the natural, again, trajectory of somebody that's going through this process of change. And again, the key word is that it looks, and it is kind of an unnatural state of being. And in that unnatural state of being, you worry about when the person comes back down, how will they react. And then this is not to say if you're going through that you have to count down your days to be miserable again, or you have to count down your days to just being meh or anything like that. But it's just something certainly to keep in your mind. Like, if you feel this sort of unnatural, dare I say, high for recovery, just always, as one should be vigilant about your feelings, about the emotions you're going through, about your moods, about how you're handling things, and truly understand that all things pass, even good things. They pass too. But the good thing about all things passing is that, yes, good things will pass, but of course the bad things do too. So with that being said, if you're going through some bad stuff right now, or if you're struggling, or if you're all new to this, and you have these feelings of doubt or insecurity, if you stick with it, it will pass too. And for anybody that has long-term recovery that's watching this, that's awesome. That's something that I now am, aspiring to myself. And if you're watching this just because you're curious about it, that's awesome that you checked this video out. And other than that, be well.